at that point, I'm going to do a quick demo. Everybody will get assigned a specific device. I'll show you how to use them. Pay attention to every single device, only because you're going to be getting recorded data back from this. You need to know what you're watching, listening, that kind of thing.
Okay.
So first thing we're going to be using is thermal imaging. Why would I want thermal imaging inside of a ghost hunt?
Cold spots.
Right, exactly. You wouldn't believe cold spots. It's the old adage that we're looking for cold spots. So this is the real deal. This is a FLIR Pro. What does that mean to you? This is what firemen use to help save people. Correct. So like this is a true, real deal. This is not a phone app. So what we're looking for in here is literally, well, first off, you should be able to see me in there, right?
Yeah.
So sorry, Derek, but I'm the red, orange, and yellow guy, which means I'm the hottest thing inside the frame. So it just happens to be that way. Okay. It's pointing at me anyway, so you're not even in it. So with that said, we're looking for those blue and black spots to either start moving on their own or start taking shape. I normally look for like 20-degree difference in drops. So there's a blue dot bouncing around the screen that's helping us find where the coldest spot is in the frame at that particular moment. So it's kind of helping to guide your eye. Do you see what I'm talking about now?
Yes.
So now with that blue dot,
It's like right over.
there's a...
It's over your shoulder.
Yeah,
it's probably going to be on a window.
Yes.
Yeah, window. It doesn't see through glass. It only looks at surface temperatures. So just kind of keep that in mind as well. So if you're trying to be a peeping Tom, you can't. Not with this camera. She's like, I'm done. I wanted to sneak up on people. So you're going to have a full recording of this. It's already started recording, and I do that on purpose so that way everybody knows how to watch the video with that blue dot. But again, we also have a center crosshairs on there, so in the event that Derek finds something on here and he needs to move the camera, he can try to see where that blue area is functioning, so that way we can see if it's a legitimate cold spot or not. And you're going to hold this horizontal all night long, just like this. Okay. So that way, when I splice it all together, because you're gonna do some starts and stops. As great as this hardware is, the software sucks.
So you're just going to pause it.
You got it.
What you want?
So even when I say go ahead and start it back up again, make sure you're in this position with the camera on your left. You got it. Okay. Well, a lot of people flip it the opposite way. They'll put the camera on the right.
Make it any difference whether I hold it right here like that or
That's
not?
where the camera is.
Or are they fucked with that?
You're good.
Right-handed.
He's got the crab balls.
Yeah, I got crab.
Yeah.
Spirit boxes.
Cam, you're like super cold over there, like, especially towards the heart region.
No.
I'm just teasing.
That's
I'm
all right.
just
There's a
teasing.
little black in there. It's all right.
Spirit boxes. So we're going to be using several different types of spirit boxes tonight. So spirit boxes are a way for us to communicate with the dead.
Okay.
On TV, this is normally your white noise, and then your host will tell you the bullshit he thinks he heard in the middle of it. And it's kind of a dribbled mess because he has to tell you what he thinks he heard. We're going to be doing this in real time. None of you are trained to listen to white noise for 2 hours at a time. There's another method to using these. You can slow the sweep down and actually allow the radio chatter to come through. Spirit boxes, when you're using these like this, you can hear the DJs, the song lyrics, the commercials. If we can make any of those things out, obviously it's a 50-50 shot that I can tie it to the location of where we are, a person in history we're discussing, or even something going on with one of you. A lot of times you guys bring people with you and you didn't even know it. So sometimes things are related to you directly. So again, whatever I'm trying to remember how I'm going to do this tonight, but now that everything's broken up. So this particular one, this person's going to have a set of earbuds in. So they're going to use one earbud so that way they can hear me and the spirit box. This one is recording the entire session for us. No outside noise, so that way tomorrow morning I can spot check it, plus I'll be writing down everything that particular person hears in real time. So that way you kind of have a double whammy, because I'm only going to spot check this. This is going to be almost 2 hours of white noise and sweeping through the FM radio stations. So
I was just going to say, you have to give it to her because that's all she does is listening with earbuds.
Hey, I do too. I'm an audiobook person.
Yeah.
Yes. I'm always listening to you.
24/7 audio book.
Yep.
These got a little jungle. So again, with this particular spirit box, this is one of my favorite devices because a lot of times when I'm investigating a space, I run two of these. One on fast sweep, one on slow sweep, and they're both on mute, so I don't have to listen to it in real time, and I just listen to the recordings later. So a lot of times I can match things up that way. You're going to have to undo the twisty tie, but I will show you where the volume is. It's next to the button right here where my finger is. Okay. So undo the twist tie, pop an earbud in, so that way you can hear us and the radio. You can't mess up with recording too, with moving that volume up and down, just because the recording is going to be nice and even all the way across. This next spirit box is a little different than that one. This one actually gives us a word from time to time in the center of the screen. So on your TV shows, this would be an ovulus, basically. So an ovulus, the one you guys see on TV that's meant for ghost hunting, has 2,048 terms in it.
Shows that we're talking about.
All the paranormal ghost hunting TV shows. Ghost Hunters, Ghost Adventures, you name it.
Paranormal Adventures.
Yeah, can't name them all. There's a thousand. So, but with that said, this one has over 9,000 terms in it.
Wow.
So we're going to go 80% of it. It's going to be bullshit. Doesn't mean anything because it is a phone app. So now with that being said, the other 5 to 20%, you're going to get the full list back. I will always tell you if something is relevant, why it was relevant, and then the link to verify it. The nice thing about this list is that it is going to give me timestamps on every single term. So it kind of helps me identify where things are going to show up on that spirit box, on the camera, so forth and so on. This is last night's tour. They had 77 terms. I'm going to clear them out and start us over fresh. The first word we have is bless, which means it's going to go to you. So you don't have to do anything. Nice. You don't even have to show me every single word. I will come to you when I want to see the word list. When that happens, there's a little white box to the right of the word that looks like a scroll right here. You want to tap that, you'll be able to scroll through it and then circle back to the main screen.
Okay.
2 easy buttons.
So what is this picking up to get the word?
It is claiming that it is sweeping through the radio stations just like the spirit box that Julie does. So with that, my game that we're playing tonight, is it coming from a ghost or is it just coming from the app? So again, when it comes from something that I can actually prove, it is so specific that it can't be denied. Like that's the whole point of it.
Depends upon the situation within what you're in. Okay, so if you're standing beside Big John's and it says Big John,
obviously we have.
Okay, thanks.
Something came over there. I don't know what it was.
last thing I ask is if there's anybody here from Tennessee.
That's a yes or no question. I will catch them every time. Every time.
I had to ask that question.
Any other big number readings on the screen?
No.
Nothing. Okay. Come on, Eliza. You know what questions we're thinking about and looking to ask. Give us some of your answers. I'm here every night. I think you don't know what we're about to ask. Make some believers out of people.
Switch. Okay. You got it?
We're talking burning question.
What else is that? Switch back again?
Yeah, she wanted to switch.
It's okay.
No,
That's the whole point of this.
Fine, yeah.
Experiment with the tools and advice.
She's pretty sensitive to things anyway.
What do you got?
Walk over this way.
You want to walk over that way? Okay.
What happened here? Did you get married here? Did you live here? What year did you live here?
think you may have heard so far? Or nothing but that?
There's some words coming through, but I can't understand what they're saying. It's not this style.
Okay. I mean, I heard some like voices coming
Yeah,
through.
some voices coming through.
Right. Again, that's not an easy job.
No.
Like, listening to a spirit box is the most difficult thing that we do out here.
Right. And I can understand that. It's just, I'm not getting questioning.
They're not speaking Tennessee.
Yeah. They don't understand my country accent.
Any other terms come up out of yours? Seems like things like what was it?
Uh-oh. Ooh. Navy boys.
What year was the earthquake?
This is the Navy boys.
All right.
Walk through with the dress.
Let's get this.
I did 5.9.
Oh.
I mean, that's not all the time.
12,
When you get free bird, you let me know.
3.1, 3.2, 10,
Oh.
28.4,
28?
15.9.
There's a Tesla about to run over you.
Yeah.
Never. I don't think they're revealing.
Boy, that was weird.
So your highest one was at 28, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll definitely take that. And obviously you've seen how it actually grew.
Yes.
And then just dropped down to nothing.
Yes, but right now it's 2.1.
Was there any temperature change?
There was not.
Alright, let's get you guys some answers.
Okay.
I don't see anything specifically relevant between the wordless spirit box. Obviously, we're still struggling with this one, which is fine. This one's really difficult to listen to, and you obviously have only given one number so far. So, again, perfectly fine. It's not an easy job. So, let's get into... I heard that.
You got what?
Stairway to Heaven. But it's a matter of the lyric, not the song.
It was just notes. No words.
So, the bridge, before they get into the heavy part.
6.4, 11.7, 6.3.
Let's go anything above the 28 at this point.
Okay.
Giving me probably 15 readings. I think that's enough for something. So I'd like to show you at least what Eliza Lucas Pinkley looked like first and foremost. Her maiden name being Lucas. What's that? So obviously the long gaunt face, English woman, the blue dress indicating the indigo. Obviously this is a painting, but there are signs in here that obviously show that she was a plantation woman. So the mansion, actually, this is where you're standing right now. This is the only photograph we have of the mansion. This is after the Great Fire of 1861. So again, it did catch fire. I'm looking for the number 61. So do I know if anybody specifically died during that fire in this location? I do not. Could not find any records as far as anybody passing away in the spot. But the house was still in the family, even though that was after Eliza's death. So we still get terms like fire. Now, every tour guide is going to tell you about a great fire of whatever year it happened in. This one literally went from one side of the peninsula to the other. You are standing where the green dot is now. So this was a giant fire. Like, this was a pretty large piece. So again, a lot of people like to see at least where it went off to. Now, it started off at the Harris Theater, is now up the street, came down here, did that damage, then went to the other side of the peninsula. So again, the term fire, even though we had burn over there, I'm still going to count that burn as the 2015 fire of Big Johns. So I'm going to see if something else pops up around that specifically. Eliza, let's talk about the kids first. There were 4 children total. The first one being Charles, that I told you about, signing of the Constitution. Then there was Thomas. Thomas fought in a Revolutionary War battle called the Battle of Camden. He was shot in his left leg and captured by the British. When he was released, he was left on a cane the rest of his days. If Thomas's name shows up, I usually look for other clues wrapped around him being captured, shot in his leg, and obviously cane being, something that he was stuck with. The next child is the one I asked you not to poke the bear with, Baby George. Obviously, his name is Baby George. He did not make it. He was an infant in passing. We do not know exactly how old he was because his death certificate has the same month and year as birth and month, or the birth and death. So we don't know if he was days old or weeks old. The possibility of this is because George doesn't have a headstone or a grave. They usually would bury children like that with their mother, so they may have kept the baby mummified right here in the home, decomposing, even though it's mummified, waiting for his mother to pass and he can be buried with her. It's going to get even a little weirder when I start talking about Eliza's death. But the last child from Eliza and Charles was Harriet, the only daughter. She married in Horry. Myrtle Beach, just north of here, is in Horry County. So that should tell you where she lived. It wouldn't have been a 2.5-hour car ride to go see her daughter. It would have been letter writing. So when Harriet does show up here, which is very seldom, we do get things wrapped around ink, paper, pen, published, because those letters were published. Eliza's death. She was 70 years old when she died of breast cancer in 1793. Now, 1793, we have no idea what the hell breast cancer is. We're going based off of her medical records today. So that tells us that she died of breast cancer. As far as where she died, she was going to Philadelphia, going up there for treatments for whatever they thought she had. That's where she died. That's where she's buried, Philadelphia. Keep in mind, this should answer a lot of questions for you. First off, I don't take you to actual cemeteries. Why? Because you're not going to hang out where you're buried once you're gone. You're going to go to your mansion 400 miles away. This is why it gets so much activity. Now, granted, it is a lot lighter here tonight, based on lack of activity that you guys are telling me about. I would tell you that that particular place is giving us about the average of what I normally see out here, between the motion and the average signals. I have seen that device go all the way up to 148 milligauss in this location. There's been other nights where it gives me absolutely nothing. It's like zeros all the way across the board. Happens very seldom, like maybe 4 times a year. So it just depends on my group, I think. But as far as the president that was a pallbearer at her funeral, any guesses, teachers? 1793?
1793, no.
Washington, at his own request, because of the indigo that helped get the country started, and the Pinckneys were basically, most of them were politicians. He knew all of these governors. So even when Washington visited Charleston, his first breakfast was with Eliza in Georgetown as he was coming into town. So that should tell you how important she actually was to helping get our country started. So this is a pretty big deal. I am going to take the indigo back from you, so that way I don't lose track of where it is. It's kind of small. So it did not help us out tonight. Did you happen to hear any terms other than the stairway to heaven? Now that I revealed all of the answers. Birthday?
Will that be the birth?
Can't think of any April birthdays off the top of my head.
No, but she's saying Philadelphia as in the birth.
Kind of a stretch. Like I said, I'm on
Trying. That's a stretch.
Trying.
More blinks around here.
It's a stretch.
I wanted to know if she got her.
She did not die.
And was anybody named Daniel?
Yeah, she probably did.
In isolation.
The fact that you
But
heard
obviously,
something, you're going to write it down.
it must have. Are you singing Britney's own thing?
I do have Britney.
Oh, baby, baby.
Oh God, don't get me started. Like, y'all have no
All I
idea.
heard was do.
We went to Vegas once and got to see Britney.
That was oh
Don't get me started singing.
What?
my God. It's
That thing's
bad.
going nuts. Here's what's going to happen from here. You're going to cut off your video. So go ahead and hit that square, turn into a circle, give your hands a break. You're going
Daniel, Jack, Leonardo,
We're going to mute yours because this is a quiet area. We're next to the hotel. They're like, that's why we handle it. Yeah. Any names or things? So here's why I asked for names. Let's kind of get into this. So that actually gave me a motion. Or is that just coming from you? When we crossed that last crosswalk, not the one where I named the ghost, the one after that, that's where the original Charlestown Wall used to be. So we are now inside the original Charlestown Walls, which means we're on one of the very first streets for names. We're coming up on the loop, like every 6 to 7 weeks they get the same 2 names. And we're like in week 5 to 6. We can't seem to pinpoint the exact pattern of how it falls, but the names I normally get are Benjamin and John. You guys can give me those names? No. Not John. It's got to be a John.
Jackson.
So with John, we'll get his last name as well, which is Johnson. So yes, his name was John Johnson. And we also have an Alexander that lived at this alley at one point as well. So they were to name. But normally Benjamin and John will pop up every 6 to 7 weeks. So do I have anything relevant about the time period that they actually lived here? When I say people lived here, I'm only talking like 5 to 6 people at a time. I'm not talking like 50 houses were lining this street. So I'm talking little tiny shotgun houses, kind of sporadic. So 2 out of 5 names every 6 to 7 weeks. I don't find that coincidental. So I don't know what they both lived here in 1801. I don't have any specific happening of what happened down here in 1801. It just so happens that they both lived down here. The bricks you're standing on, these are Belgian blocks, which means they're made straight from granite. If you know anything about the paranormal, you've heard the term limestone before. Limestone is said to stir things up. Limestone comes straight from the earth. That's one of the reasons why they say it can do that. Granite also comes straight from the earth. So when it's been staying in the same spot for long periods of time, since 1735, it is also said to hang on to the consciousness of memories and replay it over and over again on a loop. So, these are granite bricks. I keep getting the same names every 6 to 7 weeks. You can put the clues together for yourself, but I think we honestly have a true stone tape theory here. They did do an archaeological dig underneath this particular space, and they found some people's clothing, tools, and that kind of thing. It makes sense if they classified them as lower class, because the other side of the wall would have been down the street, across the street from the East Bay of where we were walking down. The smell of low tide would be coming through here quite often. The rich people of Charleston are not going to put up with that. If you've been down to the Battery, you've noticed the skinny houses where they go long back. There's a couple of reasons for that. First off, you are taxed based on how much street side you actually took. So the skinnier your house, the less taxes you have to pay. We just left the Pinckney Mansion site where I showed you where the house was brought against the street. The Pinckneys had money. They didn't care. It was bragging rights to be able to show off their house. So again, they're outside the city walls. They probably weren't taxed as much, but they also had the money to be able to pay them if they did tax them very much. The other reason those houses are skinny in the front is because they have piazzas with the front door on them. It helps keep the smell of low tide from coming into the home. They would open up the second-story window, and it would actually bring in the cool breeze and air condition the house because cool air drops and heat rises. So it's kind of an old form of air conditioning. These people didn't have that luxury. So again, we're talking shotgun houses down here. So before people lived here, there was actually a Masonic lodge here, which is obviously where the name Lodge Alley comes from. Freemasons. So you get terms wrapped around the Freemasons. So Mason, Brig, Freemason. I've even heard the term Illuminati at least 4 or 5 times last year alone. And again, first off, we're going to talking about the Illuminati on the radio. And second off, why am I only hearing that word in this space? So again, I know the time frames normally where we are, even I don't normally pay attention to time when we're all together. It's a matter of like, I know normally how we kind of maneuver around the city. So again, hearing the term Illuminati, we can't make this stuff up. Here's what's going to happen. We are going to go through the rest of this alley. At the end of this alley, you're going to cut off your video because we're going to be cutting through a neighborhood to get to the next space. I'm literally taking you right on the edge of where tour guides are allowed to take you. I would consider myself just a tour guide because this is obviously more of an experience. But the next place we're going to is another alley, but I can't take you all the way through it. You have to imagine that residential areas are pretty much off limits for us, and it is considered residential at the end, and I'm the guy who got caught. You guys all have blinky lights and noisemakers and that kind of thing, and I'll explain more about it once we get there. But until we do, like your device, once we leave here, if you want to hit that white button in the back again as we exit, because again, we're going to be getting parking meters, it's going to give you false positives, and we don't record in neighborhoods. So Spirit Box says keep listening. So again, once we exit that neighborhood, you should be okay once we exit out of the alley. I just don't disturb the hotel. So anything go past the yellow, we should be fine. All right, let's see what else we can capture. You got any other words, Dan? James B. is the stuff I look for. These are awesome starts. So obviously we're probably going to get a lot more based on what the story actually is. Because remember, I'm out here 6 to 7 nights a week. They know I'm coming. Half the time my name shows up during the tour. Well, that would be the frequencies. That's how I would look at that. So I would see if there would be something else relatable to the Freemasons, something more specific. Or Mason, or more specific.
Yeah, this is definitely not her.
Yeah, I see that. All right, so I'm actually going to have you closer to the middle because I don't want you filming me. I want you to casually film the alley behind me. So if you can
Right
stay
there?
against the wall and just
Like
kind of
that way?
Yep.
There's a group
Okay.
there.
Yep. We're going to casually hold your cell phone, like maybe down near your belly. I do my best to stay out of the light. So this is Philadelphia Alley now, and like I mentioned, it used to be called Duelers Alley. So duels actually occurred here. Every ghost story goes down there, and they basically tell the same story I'm about to tell you, but you're ghost hunting. We're looking for specific clues. So I want you to keep in mind that it's not fair for us to go down there when there's two other large groups of, I mean, obviously not that way tonight, but if there were two other packed out nights of tours at 20 people each, and we're trying to investigate only half the alley because that's as far as we're allowed to go, it's not fair to them or us. That's why I tell the story out here. And that's why we film over here as well. So we're just going to keep an eye on it slowly and, you know, try not to move around so much. Now, we all tell that dual story, so here it goes. Doctor moves down here from Rhode Island. His name is Joseph Brown Ladd. Now, I know we heard the name Joe earlier, but I think we're a little too far away.
Okay.
Now, every once in a while, I'll get something very specific to this story as we're crossing East Bay Street to go to Lodge Alley, because we did cross this street. So, very seldom, but it does occur. But anyway, Joseph, he moves down here because his fiancée Amanda just inherited a bunch of money from her dead parents. She has an attorney helping her out with his cash. The attorney thinks the doctor's just after her money, so he tells her to get rid of the doctor. He moves to Charleston to prove that he's not. As he's coming into town, the coachman set him up to be robbed and killed. So it wasn't a very good start to his stay in Charleston. Somebody walking by with the name Ralph Isaacs. I stopped on Ralph because Ralph has the same initials as where the doctor came from. Remember, you're ghost hunting. Rhode Island, Ralph Isaacs. R.I. will show up here quite a bit. We need a secondary clue, so we need to know who the hell it belongs to when it does show up. As far as what Ralph told him, he basically said, dude, there's a gunman inside who's going to try to kill you, but you can rent a room from some friends of mine at 59 Church Street. Obviously, 59 being a prominent number. He takes him up on the offer, and the two become friends. The doctor's practice starts to take off. He's making his own money, proving his point that he's not after Amanda's cash. He becomes known as the Whistling Doctor. Keep in mind, every haunted city you ever go to is going to have a cliched whistler of some sort. Ours just happens to be a doctor. So, this is the late 1700s where whistling was a practice. Him and Ralph go see plays together, but they can't sit next to each other because the doctor makes more money. He gets better seats. So, on the way home, they're talking about this play that they went to go see, William III, and they start arguing over the new actress that was in town. The doctor thought she was fantastic, Ralph not so much. They start arguing, and it gets even uglier when Ralph starts insulting the doctor's fiancée back home in Rhode Island. They obviously part ways, pretty pissed off at each other. Ralph is from here. He goes to his friends at the newspaper. He puts an ad in the paper telling the whole city of Charleston what he thinks of the doctor. The doctor sees the ad and he rebuttals with, let's go to Duelers Alley, we're going to settle this. So they come down, they take their 20 paces, they turn, the doctor points his gun in the air, and he shoots. He did not want to kill his friend. He just wanted the courage and bravery to show up to the fight, which is often what happened at a duel, by the way. It's not always a dead guy at the end. But Ralph has his one shot, and he puts it in the kneecap on the doctor. So the doctor doesn't die either, but Ralph proved his point that he's still pissed and not willing to forgive. The doctor's friends pick him up. They take him home to 59 Church Street, where he dies 10 days later after refusing medical treatment. He's a doctor. He probably tried to bleed out the bullet himself. They say as you walk through the alley, you can actually hear the whistles from the doctor. Keep in mind, I used to take my tours through here where we would use my audio, no spirit boxes, to listen for those whistles in the background. If you happen to go down there with your voice recorders trying to find the whistles, keep in mind every local knows the story. Anybody walking up and down Cumberland or Queen Street on the other side is going to hear a whistle down the alley. I do it every single night on my way back to my garage. My garage is right there. So,
Is there a particular whistle?
the things that I've caught where I can't debunk it, it's really faint and in the background. So
Okay.
the way the wind kind of goes through Charleston, it's going to kind of go obviously
Carry a
east to
little
west.
bit. Yeah.
It's not going to really go down there. When you go down there, it's almost like a stale air, so it's not real breezy. And again, it's a weird space. It's always quiet too. So when there's no tours down there, like it's one of the quietest places in Charleston. And
So if I come down at like 3:30 in the morning,
by all means, you can catch it in the daytime.
Okay.
Like, I've done that before too. Again, very quiet space. They also say you can hear gunshots in those recordings, but I don't have any proof of that. Here's the reason why I got kicked out, because this is the fun stuff, right? So, at the end of this alley is a beautiful mansion. Again, considered a residential area. This alley didn't always come all the way through, which means the bricks on the other side are older. I used to show off those bricks because they're sun-dried bricks from slave children. We do have a full handprint of a slave child, fingerprint swipes in those sun-dried bricks. I would always show it off to basically show how far we've come, the history of Charleston, yada yada yada. Everybody wants to put a spirit box or an EMF meter near it. I treat that brick the same way I do a gravesite. That kid's not staring at that brick in the afterlife, like, we gotta move on. Well, I was in the wrong, and I was in the wrong area, so the gentleman came out screaming one night because that brick with the handprint in it is outside his dining room. He was not very pleased with me. That was November 26th, 2020. Very specific date. November 27th, 2020 was Thanksgiving. I did not have a tour, so I got a phone call on the 28th, the day after, Black Friday, from the tourism office that I either need to go down halfway or reroute my tour. So I decided I'm going to reroute, and I'm going to go into this pirate bit that everybody claims to have up there. Even though I don't have any proof or evidence, I'm going to wing it and see what happens. My tickets were much cheaper then. I don't wing it anymore. So at any rate, I'm a vampire guy. I'm not into pirates. I go up and I tell what I know about this female pirate, and somebody hears the number 300 on a spirit box, and I have no idea what it means. Somebody else hears the name Anne before we even get there. So I'm like, all right, something's going to happen here. So I look into 300 the next day. Anne Bonny's piracy trial was on November 28th, 1720. The exact 300 year anniversary of her trial. So again, I keep going back night after night. It is a hit or miss. We're either going to have a lot or we're going to have absolutely nothing. Pinckney Mansion site usually gives me the most data, usually when it comes to the actual evidence. But when we do get a lot out of the Powder magazine due to this pirate story, which is kind of a crazy whopper of a story, it is a lot of shit coming through. We'll just put it like that. So again, it's either going to be a lot or absolutely nothing. And I hate to end a night like that, but it is what it is. I can't make the ghosts do what they're going to do. Any terms pop up since we've been standing here? What was the last one? Possible. Okay. Have you heard anything? No.
I heard gun.
Gun.
Yeah, when you were talking about.
We have the word gun that showed up on that
Oh,
list
you have
too.
it too?
So, and again, if it's obviously recording, you guys were next to each
Got
other.
fame.
Yeah.
I'm gonna live forever. Clear on that thing.
It's okay.
Fame and art.
And obviously, I'm not expecting any readings out of you because we're staying on the sidewalk. So as we go to the next spot, just so you know, you can cut your video now. As we go to the next spot. Marry in what way? Name or marriage? So, but Mary is very specific. Mary is across the street. So we're not getting her interest at all. So let's get your mindset going on pirates. Oh, what do you got?
Fall,
Okay.
circus, a door, catch. I got catch twice.
I'm watching it, but you're also walking, and I don't think you have your antenna. Now reset. There you go. All right, last stop. So we are going to be discussing that little building over there with the crosses on it. First off, those are not crosses. Those are called earthquake bolts. Just the earthquake bolts is that they are turnbuckles. So in the event we have another earthquake with what we did in 1886, which we haven't, you can turn those turnbuckles and it'll straighten the building back up again. So again, it's a great theory, it just doesn't work. The reason I bring these ones up in particular is because they're the very first set of earthquake bolts that we put in because this is the oldest government building in South Carolina. This is the Gunpowder magazine. We talked about the Charlestown walls earlier. This is the street in Cumberland where it actually stood, where the parking garage is now. It went up past the Powder magazine, then started going south towards the battery. It locked the Gunpowder magazine in the corner of the walls on purpose. If it gets attacked from revolutionary warships or pirate ships, from 3 blocks away, it's going to have a hard time getting through those 32-inch thick walls. So let's say that it does. It goes all the way through, and it blows up the gunpowder. There's sand in the roof that was put there during its construction to go up with the explosion and then fall to put out the fire of the gunpowder. Another great idea that doesn't work. We know this because we had another powder magazine closer to the battery. It did get hit, sand went up, building burned to the ground. So the sand theory doesn't work. The sand, however, is still there because sand does not disintegrate. So kind of keep that in mind. We are here because this building is what I call a familiar. It's kind of like using a toy to attract a child ghost. So this building, we don't have many buildings this old in Charleston. So it was finished in 1713. We are here because it's what I call a familiar. And Cormac moves here from Rhode Island. Not Rhode Island, where am I? Ireland. She moves here from Ireland in 1708, which is in the middle of this building's construction. So she moves here with her father and his mistress. The mistress happens to be her mother. Is everybody with me so far?
Yeah.
The 3 of them are running away from his wife. So just want to get that little twist out of the way before we really get deep dive into the story. They move here to basically the Georgetown area. Dad buys a plantation, mom dies pretty quickly. So that means he has to send young Anne down here to Charlestown to sell anything from the plantation to keep things afloat. Now, young Anne back home in Ireland says she was kind of a badass. She actually killed one of her servants when she was only 7 or 9 years old with a knife to the belly. So I want you to kind of have that whole mentality of her being a badass.
She's Irish.
Story. Now, we're going to fast forward. This building was done in 1713. 1715, pirates are coming through town. Anne is stoked. She's going to fall in love pretty quickly. This guy's name is James Bonny. Dad doesn't approve because he's a filthy pirate. They run away to Jamaica. They get married. Anne Cormac becomes Anne Bonny, the most famous female pirate of the Golden Age. Now, when she gets down there, this is not the Captain Jack Sparrow that she was hoping for. This guy is a privateer, spy for the British, basically. He's a coward. So, she falls in love again a few years later. This guy's name is John Rackham, guy number 2. I'm going to keep track for you guys because there's a couple. John Rackham's, nickname was Calico Jack. So we did have the name Jack earlier, but I feel like we were a little too far away from the location for that to be wrong. So we're going to call him Jack for the rest and not John Rackham. So he'll be Calico Jack. He has his own ship and wants to be part of it. You can't have a girl on the crew because girls curse pirate ships. So he makes a deal with her. If you dress like a guy and hide your gender, you can obviously be part of the crew, but you're going to be a female in my quarters. He's the captain. So let's put 2 and 2 together. Being a female in his quarters, she's eventually going to get pregnant. You can't have a pregnant pirate guy on the crew. Like, somebody's going to figure it out. So he drops her off in Cuba. These are friends of mine. They'll help you deliver the baby. Come back later. We'll figure it out. She has the baby, but returns with no baby. We have no idea what the hell happened to the child. So she's also dressed like a female. This makes Jack pretty mad. And Jack just captured another pirate crew, and they're down below deck. Anne's going to go flirting, because that's what Anne does. We're on guy number 3. Guy number 3 turns out to be female, dressed like a guy to be part of the pirate crew that Calico Jack just captured. So now we have 2 females, dressed as males, on the same pirate ship. That young lady's name was Mary Reed. Now, that's where the name Mary I got excited about. So when we see, obviously her last name pops up too. Now Mary and Anne become friends, possibly lovers, we don't know for certain, but she convinces Mary to become part of the crew. The British find out where they are. They send their entire fleet of ships to come take down one pirate ship. Anne and Mary are the only 2 not drunk enough to come up and fight and defend the ship with their 1 bullet flintlocks. Obviously they're going to get taken. 2 women taking on a whole fleet of ships is not going to work out. As they're being arrested, Anne looks at Jack, her beau and captain, and says, "You should have fought like a man instead of being hanged like a dog." So the word dog being something there. For sure.
Yeah.
But dog being a prominent word that shows up here often. But anyway, the judge wants to see the 2 men that fought back by themselves. He's already tried and hung Calico Jack and his drunken crew from down below deck, and they're already dead and gone. The 2 ladies go in front of the judge, whose name was also Nicholas, by the way. We had Nicholas Trout across the street with Steve Bonnet. This is Nicholas Laws. So Nicholas wants to see these 2 ladies, and he doesn't know that they're female. So they reveal their gender, hoping to save themselves. He doesn't care that they're female. He's still going to hang them because they're still pirates. They plead our bellies was the last thing they said. Meaning they're both claiming to be pregnant. You cannot hang a pregnant woman in 1720. It's illegal. He sends them both back to jail. Delays the hanging. Dad is still here in the Charlestown area with his Irish money. He bails out Anne. She remarries husband number 2, guy number 4. Yes, we're going to count Mary because we don't know. And she has 4 kids and dies at the age of 84. That's all we know after her pirate career. As far as Mary Reed goes, she died a year later in 1721 from whatever pirates died from in Jamaican jail. My cigarette's back. So again, use your imagination on whatever happened to Mary. Now, as far as the questions you can ask here, I only left out 2 things on purpose because you guys already know what you're doing with your devices by now. So I left out the name of Aunt Bonnie's parents, that's the father and the mistress, and the name of Calico Jack's ship. So when you guys are doing your spirit box work, obviously there's 2 questions, otherwise you can ask whatever the hell you want to. I told you at the beginning of the story that people have passed out, and this is one of those stories where it's actually relevant, so let me give you that one in about a minute and a half. Back in September, I believe it was, I brought my crew back here, just like you guys were standing, and the kid next to me starts to go white as a ghost, and he literally is about to pass out on me. I pick him up by his armpit, and I carry him over to that brick wall over there so he can sit down. I send his boyfriend over across the street to get him a bottle of water. He brings it back, he's feeling better. I then tell the story, so they don't know the story yet. I send everybody out to go play with their devices, and they pull me aside. We have to tell you something. We are 2 transgender males, meaning I had 2 females dressed as males on my tour, just like Anne and Mary. And it made sense to them on why one of them about passed out the minute we entered the space. We did have quite a few terms come up around them that night as far as Anne and Mary go, so kind of take that for what it's worth. So when I say heated warning at the beginning of the tour, it's because I have obviously reasons for it. So again, they feel like they're part of the story now, and they're perfectly fine with me retelling it night after night after night. So I know it's at the end of the tour, but it also kind of gives you the justification of why I do it at the beginning of the tour. So we are going to spread out. If you do want to capture some footage of the front of the powder magazine, feel free to exit the lot and make a left. The only thing I ask is you don't interrupt other tours. As far as EMF readings, I'll be surprised if we get anything. It's definitely not the Pinky Mansion. So again, this space actually belongs to the church, but we're going to get as close to the powder magazine as we can. The closer you get to the bushes towards the front, just so you know, you will get a little bit of readings because of the parking here, so they give a little bit of feedback. Okay. But as far as spirit boxes, let's see what we can capture, and let's see what we can do here. Again, we'll know within the first 5 minutes if we have something going on or not. So.
Go ahead, do your thing, Willie.
Yeah, following everybody.
Tried first to make sure.
Well, that light cut on, but I couldn't get a cold flare off of it. I can't get a cold flare off of any of those windows like I have a lot of other windows. It's just all hot. It's a porta potty.
tell me who's here? When are you here? Did you live here?
Yeah, I think she moved here. I think I'm telling you, it's just
She can't really do videos. So, there's words.
Anything coming up out of yours, Audrey?
Just random.
Okay.
I heard something like dude or Jude or something like that, but I don't know if that's a name or if it was just something random.
Probably something random.
Sounds like it.
And nothing crazy going on with your camera?
No, I haven't got a whole lot. Earlier, that light flipped on. I tried to hit it, and it didn't give me any kind of flare on the light.
What do you mean? Which light?
That one right there, in that window.
Those are apartments.
Yeah, that's what I figured.
The
But
beloved
it
is
just
running
didn't
on
change
empty.
anything. And when I hit it with the camera, it went back off. And it was kind of the same.
Yeah, her device, like, it's got to be something going on with her. The way she's either holding it or if she's shaking. Like, it should not be going off with that flickering green in that many different spaces.
Because she's walked the perimeter and it just keeps going.
Now it's stopped. But the minute she moves, it goes off again. It's got to be something with the way she moves. Alright, we're going to rein it in. Let's go over to the brick wall. Because nothing is super specific other than we had the name John show up.
Come on up.
That thing in the back?
I am now.
Yeah, I don't think anything that you've seen here with that had anything to do with like paranormal anything. Because every time you went to go move again, it would start that flickering bit again.
Okay.
So again,
Not true.
just because you went to different spaces and it did the exact same thing, like I don't think anything's attached to you at this point. So again, I think it's just the way you move. It was maybe just sensitive tonight. I don't know what the case is. What's that? All right, so I at least like to show you what Anne looked like. So Anne, this is one of the few pictures you could find of Anne with where she actually has a shirt on. Derek, you can actually cut your video.